Have you ever been in a room full of people, maybe at a family dinner or a casual gathering, and someone says something that makes you pause for a moment, not because it was funny or thoughtful, but because it stung? Maybe it was a joke at your expense. Or maybe they talked over you, ignored your input, or made you feel like your words just didn't matter. You try to brush it off with a smile, but deep down, it lingers. That quiet feeling of being diminished, of not being seen the way you used to be. If this has ever happened to you, please know, you're not alone. Many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond have felt this shift. It's like the world slowly starts treating you as if you've become smaller, as if your experiences, your wisdom, your presence don't carry the same weight they once did. But here's the truth that no one tells you enough. You still matter. You always have. And the way you carry yourself, especially in moments when others try to dismiss or disrespect you, can either protect or erode that truth. Today, I want to talk to you about how to respond. Not with anger, not with sarcasm, not with silence, but with dignity and strength. Because it's not just about putting someone in their place. It's about putting yourself in the place you deserve to be, respected, valued, and seen. So let's begin with something small, something so simple that it's easy to overlook, but so powerful that it can change how people treat you from the very first moment. Imagine you're at a community event, or maybe at church, and someone you don't know well comes up to greet you. They reach out their hand to say hello. Now, some might just glance up and shake hands from their seat, especially if they're tired or don't feel like standing. But what if, instead, you took a second to rise, look them in the eye, and return that handshake with presence? That small action, just standing up, can speak volumes. It says, "I'm here, I see you, and I respect both you and myself." It's not about showing off or being overly formal. It's about showing up with intention. And you'd be surprised how much more seriously people take you when you carry yourself with that kind of presence. I remember seeing a man named Michael at a senior center meet and greet. He wasn't the loudest in the room, and he didn't try to impress anyone with fancy talk. But every time someone approached him, he stood up, gave a firm handshake, and made eye contact. Whether it was the event host or just someone refilling coffee, he treated them with quiet respect. And what happened? People naturally gravitated toward him. They listened when he spoke, not because he demanded attention, but because he commanded it, gently, through the way he showed up. On the flip side, there was another man, Jason, who stayed seated during every introduction. Not because he meant to be rude. It was probably just habit. But over time, you could see that others treated him more like a passive presence in the room. Less eye contact, less interest in what he had to say. Not because he wasn't smart or kind, he was both, but because his posture quietly said, "I'm not fully here." What we do with our bodies, especially as we age, still tells the world who we are. When you rise to greet someone, or even sit with shoulders back and head lifted, you're reminding others and yourself that you are worthy of being noticed and respected. Now let's talk about another moment that can really test our composure. When someone interrupts you. You're in the middle of a sentence, sharing something important, or maybe just a story you enjoyed telling, and someone cuts in. They don't mean harm, perhaps, but suddenly you're no longer speaking. Your words are hanging in midair, unfinished, and you're left wondering, should I say something? Should I just let it go? Here's a powerful way to handle that moment. Don't raise your voice. Don't fight for attention. Just pause. Turn your head. Fix your eyes calmly on the person who interrupted you. And wait. Yes, just wait. A steady, composed gaze says more than a dozen sharp words. It communicates awareness. It shows self-respect. And most importantly, it asks for accountability, without ever needing to demand it. I've seen this work firsthand. At a family dinner a few years ago, a woman I knew, let's call her Evelyn, was telling a lovely story about her travels. Her son-in-law interrupted to share his own tale, clearly eager to shift the spotlight. Instead of jumping back in or getting flustered, Evelyn simply turned to him and watched. Not angrily, just patiently. Within seconds, he noticed the silence, realized what he'd done, and gave her space to finish. No drama, no raised voices, just grace. And after that moment, everyone at the table paid closer attention when Evelyn spoke. It's in moments like these, small, seemingly insignificant, that your quiet strength can make all the difference. You don't have to fight to be heard. You don't have to become someone you're not. But you do have to stand your ground, with calmness, with clarity, and with presence. When someone interrupts, your natural instinct might be to give up the floor. But what if, instead, you reclaimed it with a simple sentence? Let me finish what I was saying. Or, I'd love to continue my thought. Not with aggression, just with intention. Because how you respond teaches others how to treat you. And every time you speak with that quiet strength, you not only earn their respect, you deepen your own. And that's really what this is all about, isn't it? Not just looking strong, but feeling strong. Not just being heard, but believing that what you have to say matters. Because it does. You do. Now, let's keep going. There's another moment, just as common and just as painful, when someone uses a joke to take a jab at you in front of others. When someone uses a joke to take a jab at you in front of others. You've probably been there before. Everyone's sitting around laughing, reminiscing, and suddenly, someone brings up an old story about you. One that was never that funny to begin with, or maybe one that makes you look foolish or weak. The room chuckles, maybe even bursts out laughing, but inside you feel a quiet ache. It's that moment of being the punchline, not the person. It can be tempting to laugh along just to move past the discomfort, or to fire back with a sharper insult, hoping to save face. But here's a different approach, one that protects both your dignity and your peace. Instead of reacting emotionally or pretending to enjoy the joke, try something subtle but powerful. Look at the person, smile gently, and ask, "I didn't quite catch that. Can you say it again?" That's it. No sarcasm, no anger, just calm curiosity. When you ask someone to repeat a joke meant to humiliate you, something fascinating happens. The rhythm of the room changes. The laughter slows. The joke loses steam. And suddenly, the one who made the joke has to take responsibility for their words, not in a way that embarrasses them, but in a way that makes them think. I remember watching a woman named Gloria do this once at a birthday party. A family member, trying to be funny, made a crack about how slow she was moving lately. Everyone laughed politely, but you could see Gloria's face tighten just a bit. Then she turned to him, smiled, and said, "I didn't hear that. Could you repeat it louder?" He hesitated, tried to laugh it off. But the damage was already done, to his joke, not to her. And just like that, the moment passed. She remained in full control of herself. And in the eyes of everyone watching, she gained something even better than a comeback. She gained quiet admiration. You see, when you don't take the bait, when you stay grounded and calm, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're taking the higher ground. That's the kind of strength people remember. Because the truth is, people will always say things, sometimes carelessly, sometimes cruelly. But your response? That belongs entirely to you. And every time you choose composure over chaos, you train the world to take you seriously. And here's another situation that might feel all too familiar. Someone says something meant to provoke you, on purpose. Maybe they bring up a past failure, or a mistake you made years ago, and they do it in front of others, just to see how you'll react. It feels like a trap, and in a way, it is. But here's a powerful tool you can use, one that may surprise you. Ask an unrelated question. Yes, really. Instead of defending yourself or explaining your side, Take a deep breath, look around, and ask something simple like, "Hey, does anyone know if that new bakery on Main Street is open on Sundays?" It sounds random, but it works like magic. What happens is that you shift the energy in the room. You take away the sting of their words by refusing to give them power. You interrupt their attempt to throw you off balance, and you steer the moment back into neutral territory. This isn't about avoiding the issue. It's about refusing to let someone else dictate the tone of the conversation or your mood. That's real control. That's grace under fire. I watched a man named Walter do this at a family reunion. Someone teased him about a business that hadn't worked out the way he'd hoped. The comment was sharp, and a few people chuckled uncomfortably. But Walter didn't flinch. He smiled, sipped his drink, and said, "You know, I've been wondering, whatever happened to that old peach tree out back? Anyone know if it still gives fruit?" There was a pause. Then the conversation shifted, just like that. The moment passed without bitterness, and Walter never gave anyone the satisfaction of seeing him rattled. That kind of control is inspiring, not just to others, but to yourself. Because when you choose to respond instead of react, you remind yourself that your peace matters more than any jab or insult someone can throw. And that brings us to one of the most powerful actions you can take, not just in conversations, but in life. When someone continues to dismiss you, undervalue you, or treat you like you're invisible, sometimes the strongest response is the quietest one. You walk away. Now, I know that can be hard, especially if it's someone you care about. A family member, a close friend, maybe even someone you've worked with for years. You want to be patient. You want to keep giving them chances. But there comes a point when you realize they're not trying to understand you. They're just trying to silence you. In those moments, walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom. You're not leaving to make a scene. You're not giving up. You're simply choosing to stop pouring your energy into a space where it's not respected. I once knew a woman named Emily, a retired teacher, who volunteered her time on a local committee. She had decades of experience, thoughtful insights, and a heart full of dedication. But the others on the committee, many younger, less experienced, consistently dismissed her ideas. They spoke over her, ignored her suggestions, made her feel like she was in the way. She stayed quiet for months, hoping things would change, but they didn't. So one day, after another meeting where her input was overlooked, Emily smiled, packed up her notes, and left. No drama, no speech, just quiet resolution. And you know what happened? 2 weeks later, she was asked to lead a different community group, one that valued her deeply and treated her like the treasure she is. Emily didn't demand respect. She walked toward where it already existed. And in doing so, she reminded everyone watching, and herself, that her time, her voice, and her presence are worth honoring. That's the real heart of it, isn't it? You don't need to argue to be respected. You don't need to raise your voice or prove your worth to those who refuse to see it, guys. You just need to stand tall in your own truth, to speak with calm confidence, to let your silence speak when words aren't needed, and to walk away when your dignity calls you elsewhere. Because you, my friend, have earned the right to be treated with respect, not just for who you are today, but for everything you've lived through to get here. And the way you respond when tested, that's where your power lives. And that's the beauty of it. You don't need to change who you are to gain respect. You simply need to return to who you've always been. The person who's weathered storms without losing their kindness. The person who's held families together, stood quietly behind others' success, and kept giving even when it wasn't noticed. That strength, your strength, isn't loud, but it runs deep. The world often thinks of respect as something we demand with force, or something we earn by proving ourselves again and again. But at this stage in life, you know better. Respect, the kind that lasts, comes from the way you carry yourself. From the calm in your voice, the steadiness in your eyes, the way you say no without guilt and yes without fear. And let me tell you, people notice. They may not always say it out loud, but they feel it. When you walk into a room without rushing to please everyone. When you speak only when you mean it, and hold your silence like it's sacred. When you don't chase attention, but your presence draws it in. What you do need is to remember that your worth isn't negotiable. Not by age. Not by other people's opinions. Not by the volume of your voice. It's set. It's yours. And every time you show up with dignity, standing, speaking, or choosing silence, you affirm that worth all over again. So next time you're in one of those tricky moments, whether someone cuts you off, mocks your past, or tries to stir your anger, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the strength in your chest. And ask yourself, what would a person who respects themselves do here? Then do that. Because your response, when rooted in self-respect, becomes more than just a reaction. It becomes a lesson, a message, a quiet declaration to the world, I know who I am, and I won't let anyone take that from me. And here's the beautiful part. The more you do this, the more others start to rise too. Your presence becomes a mirror, a reminder, a standard. You show your grandchildren what quiet strength looks like. You remind your friends they don't have to put up with being overlooked. And maybe, just maybe, even those who once disrespected you will begin to shift because now they're in the presence of someone they can't ignore. You don't need to change the world to be respected. You just need to change the way you show up in it. Calm, steady, clear, proud. And as you do, remember, you're not alone. This community, this space, this channel is here for people like you. People who are ready to stop fading into the background and start standing in the light again. So if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Tell us, when was a time you stood up for yourself with grace? Or maybe a time you wished you had. Either way, your story matters. And your voice could inspire someone else who's going through the same thing. And if you're not sure what to write, just say, I choose dignity. That's enough to let me know you were here, that you listened, that you're ready. If you found comfort or strength in this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. We're building something special here, a place where you're not invisible, where your life experience is valued, and where every voice still matters. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you walk away feeling a little more grounded, a little more certain, and a lot more seen. Here's to walking with dignity, standing with strength, and living your best years with confidence and peace. I'll see you in the next video.